Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to really dig into a topic that I think can change how so many people look at their sales funnel, and that is necessary condition analysis. And with me today, I have an expert in this field, someone who's actually helped organizations implement NCA.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because NCA really flips the script on how we normally think about sales analysis.
Oh.
Because normally, we're thinking about things like, well, what factors might help boost sales?
Right.
But in NCA, we're saying, what are the non-negotiables? Like, what are the things that must be in place for any success to even happen?
Oh, okay.
So it's like really going to the core of what matters most.
I am intrigued already. So how does this apply then to like the classic sales funnel we all, know and love?
Yeah.
That journey, from prospecting to closing and then, keeping those customers happy.
Yeah. So I think a really good analogy for this is like, imagine you're at an amusement park and you want to ride that giant roller coaster.
Okay.
But there's a height requirement.
Right.
So if you're too short, it doesn't matter how much you want to ride, you can't ride it.
Yeah, you can't ride it.
That's right. And so that height limit is a necessary condition.
Okay.
NCA helps us find those height limits in your sales process.
So it's not about just like what's helpful. It's like what's absolutely essential to even get on the ride in the first place.
Exactly.
Okay. And I know we have Dr. Richard Conde to thank for really bringing this concept to the forefront of sales strategy.
Absolutely.
He's done some amazing work showing companies how to actually use NCA to really boost their performance.
Yeah, and it all starts with understanding the difference between NCA and traditional methods like regression.
Okay.
Because regression, might tell you what the average impact of a factor is, but NCA is revealing what's that minimum level that's required for any success to happen.
So instead of just seeing correlations, we're actually like uncovering those hidden gatekeepers that are determining whether a deal goes forward or stalls out.
That's a great way to put it.
I like it.
Okay,
so I know we're going to get into the specifics of like how to apply NCA.
Yeah.
But first, I kind of want to get a sense of like how it works across each stage of the sales funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with prospecting, where you're trying to get your message out there, generate leads, reach your target audience. NCA can help you identify what are those minimum requirements for each of your marketing channels.
So instead of like spreading our efforts thin, we're really figuring out which channels are worth investing in for specific types of customers.
Exactly. And so, for example, let's say you're trying to reach younger demographics.
Okay.
NCA might reveal that having a strong social media presence is a necessary condition.
Okay.
But for older consumer segments, print advertising might be the key.
I see.
So it's really about targeting your efforts where they're going to have the biggest impact.
This is incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
You're saving so much time, money, not chasing strategies that just won't work for certain groups.
Yeah.
What about then the next stage, that pre-approach?
Yeah.
This is where things start to get, I think, a little bit more nuanced.
Absolutely. This is where you're gathering information, qualifying leads, and preparing for that first real interaction.
Okay.
And NCA can help you pinpoint what's that crucial information that you need to turn a lead into a qualified opportunity.
So instead of like drowning in data, you're like focusing in on the intel that actually matters?
Exactly. And let's say you're in B2B sales.
Good.
NCA might reveal that understanding a prospect's recent business challenges is a must-have before you even think about reaching out.
Yeah.
Without that knowledge, your approach is likely to fall flat.
It's like knowing the secret password to get their attention.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how this could be a real game changer for anyone in sales.
Yeah. And when it actually comes to doing the approach itself, that initial contact, NCA can help you craft those interactions to maximize your success rate. It might reveal necessary conditions like the level of personalization that you need, the way you frame your value proposition, or even the timing of your outreach.
So we're not just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. We're actually using data to be more strategic and intentional.
Exactly. And so, for example, NCA might reveal that in some industries, a quick response time is crucial. If you don't get back to a lead within, say, 24 hours, they're gone.
Right.
But in other industries, a more personalized email sent a few days later might be more effective. So it all depends on those necessary conditions that you uncover.
This is so fascinating. It's like we're getting a customized roadmap for our sales process.
Yeah.
Highlighting those critical decision points.
Yeah.
Where we need to make sure we're meeting those minimum requirements.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing this applies to those later stages of the funnel as well?
Absolutely.
From, the presentation to handling objections, closing the deal?
You're exactly right. NCA can help you pinpoint those make or break elements at every stage.
So tell me, how does NCA help us stand out in a crowded market? Like, especially when you're giving a presentation, let's say you're in a situation where products seem kind of similar on the surface.
Yeah, that's a great question. So think about it this way. NCA can help you identify those absolute must-haves that need to be in your presentation to actually capture a customer's interest.
Okay.
So, for example, for a certain type of customer, you might find that highlighting specific product features is crucial.
Right.
But for others, it's all about your unique pricing model.
Okay.
Or maybe your exceptional customer support.
Okay.
So NCA helps you tailor your message for maximum impact.
So we're talking about identifying those tipping points that turn a maybe into a yes.
Exactly.
And I imagine this applies to overcoming objections too.
Absolutely.
I bet there are certain ways of addressing concerns that are simply more effective than others.
Yeah. And by analyzing past objections, you can uncover patterns that reveal those necessary conditions for successful resolution. Maybe addressing a specific concern head-on is a must. Or perhaps offering a particular guarantee builds that trust needed to move forward. NCA can help you develop a playbook for those tricky conversations.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
It feels like we're unearthing all these hidden levers that can dramatically improve sales performance. I'm sure our listeners are already thinking about how to apply this to their own businesses.
I hope so. And remember, NCA can help you prioritize your efforts, tailor your strategies to specific customers and situations, and make data-driven decisions to maximize conversions and ultimately boost your bottom line.
Right.
And, like we've been mentioning, Dr. Richard Conde's research is an invaluable resource.
Yeah, he's been a real pioneer in this field.
For anyone looking to put NCA into practice, he's really shown how powerful it can be.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
The limitations of traditional sales analysis, the unique power of NCA to uncover those bottlenecks, how it can be applied across each stage of that customer journey. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's talk about closing. I have a feeling NCA can reveal some interesting insights about what it takes to actually seal the deal.
Yeah, you're right. The closing stage is where all your efforts culminate. And NCA can be incredibly valuable here. It can help you uncover those critical factors influencing those final purchase decisions.
Okay.
This might involve identifying specific pricing structures, payment options, or guarantees that must be in place for a customer to say yes.
So it's like understanding those final hurdles.
Yeah.
And making sure we have the right solutions in place to help customers clear them.
Exactly. And NCA can also help you identify upselling and cross-selling opportunities at this crucial point.
Okay.
So, for example, it might reveal that a certain level of customer satisfaction with the initial product is necessary for a successful upsell.
I see.
Or that bundling specific products together is crucial for effective cross-selling.
This is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what NCA can do.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see how our listeners use this knowledge to really transform their sales processes.
It's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started. Let's dive deeper into some more specific examples and real-world applications of NCA.
Let's do it.
In the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. Okay, so we've established that NCA can really help uncover those make or break factors across the entire sales funnel. But I'm guessing it doesn't stop at the point of sale, right? I'm thinking it can also shed light on how to keep those hard-won customers coming back for more.
Absolutely. NCA can be incredibly powerful for understanding customer retention. Because it all comes down to identifying what are those minimum requirements for satisfaction and loyalty. You can't just hope that customers will stick around. You need to understand what are the specific things that will make them want to stay.
Yeah, so what kinds of insights can NCA reveal about customer retention?
So, for example, it can pinpoint those crucial satisfaction levels that are absolutely necessary for keeping customers. And, this might be measured through something like a Net Promoter Score. But it helps you really understand for certain product categories or market segments, what are those thresholds that you need to meet?
So instead of just aiming for high satisfaction, we can actually set data-driven targets.
Exactly.
Based on what's truly necessary to prevent churn.
Exactly. And NCA can go even further. It can analyze your post-purchase support and engagement data to identify those essential elements that build lasting loyalty.
Oh, wow.
This could be anything from proactive outreach and personalized content to specific types of support services.
So it's like we're creating a recipe for customer happiness.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how NCA can shift our focus from just like closing deals to building these long-term relationships that are profitable for everyone involved.
You got it. And, these insights aren't just for huge companies. Dr. Conde has worked with businesses of all sizes.
Okay.
And he's found that even small teams can benefit from applying these principles. It's really about making your data work for you, no matter how much of it you have.
This is all incredibly insightful, but I have to admit, I'm wondering how we actually put NCA into practice.
Right.
It sounds like it requires a lot of data and analysis. Is this something a sales team can even handle on their own?
Yeah, it might sound complex.
Yeah.
But it's surprisingly manageable.
Okay.
There are clear guidelines and methodologies for implementing NCA across the sales funnel. And the good news is you don't need a PhD in statistics to get started.
Okay, so walk us through it.
Yeah.
Where do we begin?
So let's start with prospecting. To use NCA here, you need to gather comprehensive data on your marketing channel effectiveness. So think about things like impression rates, engagement metrics, and how many of those initial contacts actually turn into something meaningful.
So we're talking about like tracking where our leads are coming from and how they're interacting with our brand across those different channels.
Exactly. Then following a methodology like the one Dr. Conde has developed, you would establish what are called ceiling lines.
Okay.
For each of those channels, these ceiling lines represent that minimum resource allocation needed to actually generate qualified leads.
So it's like figuring out the minimum investment required to see any results at all.
Yeah.
Kind of like that height requirement for the roller coaster.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
And by analyzing these ceiling lines, you can identify those bottlenecks where throwing more money at a channel won't actually move the needle.
Right.
It helps you focus your resources on the strategies that are truly effective for reaching your target audience.
This is brilliant. It's like cutting through the noise and getting straight to what actually matters.
Uh-huh.
So how does this process change when we move to the pre-approach stage?
Yeah, so in the pre-approach phase, you shift your focus to lead qualification metrics and engagement indicators.
Yeah.
So you want to really meticulously record things like how are prospects interacting with your content? What are the response rates? What's the time between those interactions?
So we're building a detailed picture of how prospects are engaging with our brand before we even have that first real conversation.
Exactly. And by analyzing this data, you can pinpoint those minimum engagement levels needed for successful lead qualification.
I see.
So maybe a prospect needs to open at least 2 of your emails or visit specific pages on your website before they're really ready for a sales call.
It's like having a crystal ball that tells us when a prospect is truly interested.
That's right. And then when we move into the approach stage itself, you want to carefully track your contact attempts, including things like the timing, the channels that you used, and the response rates. Also measure the level of personalization in your initial communications and how those different methods impact your meeting conversion rates.
So we're analyzing what works and what doesn't work when it comes to making that first impression and getting that crucial first meeting.
Exactly. And by applying NCA to this data, you can identify those must-haves for successful initial contacts. So maybe a certain level of personalization is crucial, or perhaps using a specific combination of communication channels is essential. You might even find that reaching out within a specific time frame significantly increases your chances of getting a response.
This is making so much sense. It's like NCA gives us a set of customized instructions for each stage of the sales process.
Exactly.
And this applies to those all-important presentations too, right?
Absolutely. So in the presentation stage, you really want to focus on documenting the various components of your presentations and track their success rates. So measure customer engagement during the presentation and analyze how that level of customization that you offer impacts deal progression.
So we're essentially figuring out which parts of our presentations are truly resonating with the audience. And which ones might be falling flat.
And by applying NCA, you can identify those essential elements that must be present for a successful presentation. So maybe showcasing specific product features is crucial for a certain audience.
Right.
Or maybe explaining your pricing model in a particular way
Yeah.
is essential. You might even discover that highlighting your exceptional customer support is a must-have for closing deals.
It's like having a cheat sheet for creating presentations that truly captivate your audience and drive conversions.
Exactly.
Okay, what about handling objections? I'm sure NCA can provide some valuable insights here as well.
Absolutely. So to use NCA effectively in this stage, you want to carefully catalog common objections and their resolution rates.
Okay.
So you're tracking things like, how does your level of preparation relate to your success in resolving those objections?
Right.
And how does proactive objection handling impact deal progression?
So we're identifying best practices for addressing concerns and turning those potential roadblocks into opportunities to build trust and move the sale forward.
And analyzing this data through NCA can reveal those must-have conditions for successful objection resolution. So maybe addressing a particular concern head-on is essential.
Right.
Or perhaps offering a specific guarantee is crucial. You might even discover that tailoring your response to the individual customer's needs is a must-have for overcoming that resistance.
This is all so valuable.
Yeah.
It feels like we're covering every possible scenario in the sales process. What about that closing stage?
Yeah.
How does NCA help us seal the deal?
So in the closing stage, you want to focus on recording the specifics of your proposals and their success rates. Analyze the relationship between different negotiation variables and your overall close rates, as well as the impact of various closing techniques.
So we're really digging into the data to understand what works and what doesn't when it comes to getting that final yes.
Exactly. And by applying NCA, you can identify the conditions that must be in place for those successful closings. So it might be a particular pricing structure, or maybe offering flexible payment options, or highlighting a specific guarantee that overcomes those last-minute hesitations.
Wow. This is incredibly powerful. And, of course, we can't forget about that follow-up and retention stage. How does NCA help us keep those customers coming back for more?
So in this stage, you really want to diligently track post-purchase engagement and analyze how that correlates with customer retention. So measure the impact of your follow-up activities on customer lifetime value and analyze the relationship between your support levels and customer renewal rates.
So we're taking a holistic approach to customer care on using data to really understand what drives long-term loyalty.
Exactly. And by applying NCA, you can identify those necessary conditions for that long-term success. So it might be a certain level of post-purchase engagement, personalized follow-up, or providing a specific level of ongoing support to keep those customers happy and engaged.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
It feels like NCA provides a framework for optimizing every single aspect of the sales process.
It really does.
But what happens if, like, the necessary conditions we identify at different stages seem to conflict with each other? How do we resolve those situations?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something that comes up quite often. Because sometimes those necessary conditions for one stage might clash with those of another. So, for instance, the need for high levels of personalization in the approach stage might seem to conflict with the need for fast response times in that pre-approach stage.
So how do we navigate those situations? Is there a way to reconcile those seemingly competing demands?
Yeah, there are definitely strategies you can use. So first, you need to carefully analyze those bottleneck tables that come out of the NCA process for each stage and see exactly where are those conflicting conditions arising. And these conflicts often involve things like time constraints, resource allocation, or even competing priorities within your sales team.
So it's about understanding the root cause of that conflict. Before we even start looking for solutions.
And Dr. Conde really emphasizes that once you've identified the source of the conflict, the next step is to prioritize those necessary conditions based on their overall impact on your funnel performance. And this often means giving more weight to the conditions affecting later stages, like closing, since those have a more direct influence on your revenue.
So we're essentially deciding which necessary condition is more critical for our big picture sales goals.
Exactly. And then you can start exploring different scenarios to find the optimal balance. And this might involve some experimentation testing, different approaches.
To see how they impact your overall results. You know, you might need to rethink certain processes, adjust your resource allocation, Or even leverage technology to free up your team.
Okay.
To focus on those most impactful interactions.
It's like finding that sweet spot where we can satisfy the most critical, necessary conditions without compromising our overall sales performance.
Exactly.
Okay. All of this is great.
Yeah.
But I think our listeners would love a real-world example of NCA in action.
Yeah.
Do you have a case study that you can share?
Yeah, I do. Dr. Conde has done a lot of research in this area, and one of his studies focused on the follow-up stage.
Okay.
Specifically cross-selling.
Okay.
And he used data to analyze how factors like customer acquisition, cost retention rates, customer satisfaction, and the number of previous products purchased impacted cross-selling success.
So he was trying to figure out what makes customers more likely to buy additional products from a company they've already done business with. And the NCA analysis revealed some surprising insights because it showed that contrary to what many people believe, customer retention rate wasn't actually a necessary condition.
Wait, really?
For successful cross-selling.
I would have assumed that keeping customers around would be like essential for getting them to buy more.
It's a common assumption.
Yeah.
But in this case, the data told a different story.
Interesting.
Instead, the analysis identified two other factors as the crucial ingredients for cross-selling success, customer satisfaction, and the number of previous products purchased.
So it's not just about keeping customers happy. It's about making sure they're happy enough and engaged enough to consider expanding their relationship with your brand.
That's a great way to put it.
It's about exceeding those minimum requirements.
And what's even more interesting is that the analysis was able to pinpoint the specific levels of these factors that were needed for different cross-selling success rates.
Oh, wow.
So, for example, to achieve a 70% cross-selling success rate, customers needed to have purchased at least 3 previous products from the company and reached a satisfaction level of at least 85%.
So it's not just about identifying those necessary conditions. It's about actually quantifying them so we can set those data-driven targets.
Exactly.
This is incredible. It really shows how NCA can be used to get these laser-focused insights that can directly inform our sales strategies.
Yeah, it's about moving beyond those gut feelings and assumptions and using data to make smart strategic decisions that drive real results.
Right. And, even with all this talk about data and analysis, it's important to remember that NCA isn't just about cold, hard numbers.
Right.
It's about understanding your customers on a deeper level.
Exactly.
It's about getting into their heads and figuring out what makes them tick, what motivates them, and what it takes to earn their trust and loyalty.
And that's something that can benefit any business,
Yeah.
regardless of its size or industry.
This is all so incredibly insightful. But I'm also curious,
Yeah.
are there any limitations to NCA?
Yeah.
What are the potential drawbacks or challenges we should be aware of?
That's a great question because while NCA is a powerful tool, it's not a magic bullet.
Right.
There are a few things to keep in mind.
Okay, so it's not going to solve all of our sales problems overnight.
Probably not.
Okay.
First of all, NCA relies heavily on having accurate and reliable data.
Right.
So to get those ceiling lines right and to pinpoint the right necessary conditions, you need a solid data collection process in place.
Yeah.
And you need to make sure your data is clean and consistent.
So garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
Exactly. And even with good data, interpreting those bottleneck tables and understanding the real-world relevance of those necessary conditions that you find can be tricky.
Right.
What works in one industry or market segment might not work in another.
So we need to be mindful of our specific context and not just blindly apply insights from other companies or industries.
And another thing to remember is that NCA focuses on those must-have conditions.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily tell you how those conditions interact or whether they're actually sufficient for success.
Okay.
So you might identify a necessary condition, but that doesn't guarantee that meeting it alone will lead to the outcome you want.
So we need to use NCA in conjunction with other analytical methods to get that complete picture.
Exactly. It's about understanding the interplay of different factors and how they all contribute to our overall success.
Okay.
And finally, the accuracy of your NCA results depends on choosing the right type of ceiling line for your analysis.
Oh, okay.
There are different types, and selecting the wrong one can lead to misleading results.
So there's a bit of an art to applying NCA effectively.
Yes.
It's not just a plug-and-play solution.
Right.
We need to really understand the methodology and make sure we're using it appropriately for our specific situation. Maybe we need to bring in an expert like Dr. Conde to guide us.
That's a great point. Having someone with experience in NCA can definitely help you avoid common pitfalls and get the most out of your analysis.
This has been incredibly insightful. I feel like we've gained a whole new understanding of the power of NCA and how it can be used to optimize sales performance at every level.
Yeah.
I feel like we've just been handed this whole new toolkit for understanding and improving sales performance. But before we wrap up our deep dive, I want to look ahead.
Okay.
Where do you see this whole field of NCA heading in the coming years?
Well, NCA is still a relatively young field.
Right.
But it's gaining traction so quickly, and I think we're only just beginning to explore its full potential.
Yeah, it's exciting to be on the ground floor of something so revolutionary.
Right.
What are some of the trends that you're most excited about?
So one that really stands out to me is the integration of NCA with machine learning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So imagine algorithms that are constantly analyzing your sales data, identifying those critical necessary conditions in real time.
So it would be like having this super-powered sales assistant.
Exactly.
Who's constantly learning and adapting and helping us make smarter decisions on the fly.
That's right. And, we could move away from these static strategies that we've been using and toward a much more agile, dynamic approach to sales.
That sounds incredible. Are there any other areas where you see NCA making a big impact in the future?
Yeah, I think we're also going to see NCA being used to understand the long-term impact of sales strategies.
Okay.
Traditionally, we've been so obsessed with these short-term metrics like revenue and conversion rates, but NCA can help us see that bigger picture, how different approaches impact things like customer lifetime value, brand loyalty, even employee satisfaction.
So it's about building a business that's not just successful in the short term, but one that's truly sustainable and built for the long haul.
Absolutely. And I think as more organizations embrace NCA, we're just going to see even more innovative applications emerge.
Yeah.
It's a field that's really ripe for exploration.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. We've gone from the basics of NCA all the way to its future potential. And I'm sure our listeners are just buzzing with ideas.
Yeah.
But before we go, Fur, what's the one thing you want our listener to walk away with today?
I want them to remember that NCA is a powerful tool.
Yes.
But it's useless unless you actually take action.
Right.
So don't let this knowledge just sit in your head.
Yeah.
Think about your own sales funnel. Where are you seeing friction? Where are your conversion rates lower than you'd like them to be?
Yeah.
Pick one area and start applying NCA.
It's about moving beyond theory and actually putting these principles into practice.
Exactly.
And if our listener needs a bit of guidance, I'm sure someone like Dr. Conde, who's been doing this for years, could offer some valuable support. It's left countless organizations get started with NCA and see real results.
Absolutely. There are experts out there who can help you navigate those complexities and make sure you're getting the most out of NCA. But the first step is to decide that you're ready to make a change, that you're ready to move beyond those traditional approaches and embrace a more data-driven, strategic way of thinking about sales.
This has been an eye-opening deep dive. Thank you so much for guiding us through the world of necessary condition analysis.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this deep dive valuable. We'll be back next time with another fascinating topic and another expert guide. Until then, keep diving deep and keep learning.